Hey guys, it's Alex. So this video is going to be part two of the Welcome to the Unveiling video that I uploaded last week. And I know I said on that video in the comments section, as well as on my Twitter, that I am working on another video and article about Cathar prophecies, Lion Gates, and the Age of Wormwood, but that I'm still doing the finishing touches on, so I have yet to complete that. But I did want to talk about this hurricane that's poised to strike Louisiana, Hurricane Ida, and that does connect with the hurricane uh, Irma that uh, happened or struck Florida back in 2017. And this was around the same time that the celestial star sign of the woman clothed with the sun from Revelation 12 also occurred on September 23rd, 2017. And of course, if you have been following my work, you'll know that I did write a book that's all about that stuff called A Sun Lady Unveiled, which you can still find on Amazon. But yeah, I did also want to play a clip here that I found, well, I downloaded this from Tracy Twyman's YouTube a long time ago when she actually had uh, her stuff online. Of course, most of that is down now. Uh, but and of course, if you don't know who Tracy Twyman is, she is the co-author of mine, and we both wrote a book together called Baphomet, the Temple of Mystery Unveiled, which is, of course, all about this Templar idol, which is still worshipped to this day by different occult orders. But I'm not going to get too deep into that now, but I did want to play a clip that Tracy Twyman made, which is her commentary on Hurricane Irma. And I think that connects to what's happening now. So let me pull that up here. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to play that here. So I'm going to expand it a little bit so you guys can see the video properly here. And I'm also going to play another clip as well. But yeah, let me play this one first.
Hey guys, Tracy Twyman here. I'm working on a couple of really long and very interesting videos for you guys pertaining to the symbolism that you see in my new novel, Genuflect, having to do with the death of the sun, and of course the symbolism of the solar eclipse that happened a month ago here in the United States where I live, right over Oregon where I live. And as you may know, if you've been following my work, if you've read Genuflect and several of the other books that I've written, mostly nonfiction, Genuflect is fiction, then you know that I've been dealing with the concept of the collapse of the pillars that hold up heaven. The idea that one could do a ritual in which one could cause the pillars of heaven, what most people think of as metaphorical pillars holding up the sky, to collapse and for everything to crumble into nothingness. The idea is that heaven and earth are these, two realms that were split apart. They were once one, and then they were split apart, and they're now held apart by Atlas, or some sort of pillar or set of pillars that hold the sky up and allow life to exist on the surface of Earth. Now, this is the way the ancients viewed their universe. Now let's talk about this devastating hurricane that is about to hit Florida, poised to utterly obliterate everything that's on this peninsula. What's interesting to me is that Florida is, of course, called the Sunshine State, which indicates to me in a symbolic level that this hurricane will be, killing, destroying the sun, which is, again, connecting to the symbolism of the ritual that I'm talking about here. But now let's look at the name. Several people have pointed out that the name of the hurricane is after a, quote, Germanic war goddess. So let's look at here. This is a baby naming website where they mention the name Irma, which, frankly, I haven't heard very often as a female name. But, so here it is. In Latin, they're saying it means noble. In German, universal. And that they point out that it's a war goddess. Well, and, when you try to find information on the internet about the Germanic war goddess Irma, there's really not a lot of detail here. I kind of thought, well, I wonder if she's kind of a feminine form of Hermes. But there's more, because the name reminded me of this thing that I heard about years ago when I was doing this magazine called Dagobert's Revenge. Okay, I was doing this, publishing a magazine, and I got this book in the mail. It was called Irminsul by Varg Vikernes. It was for review. That it was being submitted for review. It's a nonfiction book, and the author is this guy Varg Vikernes, who was a black metal musician in Norway, and got in trouble at the time, I remember, for murder and arson. He was a white pride nationalist, I guess you would call him. Maybe not even a nationalist. He was just a white pride guy. Anti-Christianity, pro Germanic paganism, I guess you would call it, Odinism and things like that. Well, and he spent, up until a few years ago, he was in jail for a really long time for burning churches and killing at least one person. He said it was in self-defense. But anyway, so this guy, he's also, I guess, a thinker and intellectual, and so he wrote this book about Irminsul. Irminsul, which I recalled looking at Varg's book, and he was mentioning it was kind of a pillar holding up the sky. It was the pillar of heaven. So, and then on the bottom there, this thing, that's the Germanic symbol of the black sun that was utilized by Heinrich Himmler and various members of the Nazis that were into the symbolism of the black sun. So, this is all very interesting because black sun symbolism pertains to the solar eclipse. So let's look at what Irminsul really is. Old Saxon, probably great mighty pillar or a rising pillar, was a sacral pillar-like object attested as playing an important role in the Germanic paganism of the Saxon people. The oldest chronicle describing an Irminsul refers to it as a tree trunk erected in the open air. Okay, so we're going to go down here a little bit. Irmin may have been an aspect or epithet of another deity such as Woden or Odin, or perhaps Ziu or Tyr. Another form of a way of saying it is Jormunner, I guess. So anyway, we're talking about the pillar that holds up heaven. That word, that Germanic word, has got to be related to the name of this Germanic war goddess, I would think. Worshipped, a wooden pillar erected and worshipped beneath the open sky, signifies universal, all-sustaining pillar. Well, there's more. Look at this guy. What's he doing? There's this little guy genuflecting to him. He's holding up the sword and these scales, and there's a flag with a rose on it. What's all that about? Well, this is a late 16th century interpretation of an Irminsul bearing the cult image of a god of war and commerce. Here's what I was looking for. Jacob Grimm connects the name Irmin with Old Norse terms like Jormungrund, which is great ground, the earth, or Jormungandr, which is a great snake, the Midgard serpent. That's the Ouroboros serpent, folks. Definitely, I would say the name of this hurricane, or yeah, the Hurricane Irma, is related to this idea of a pillar that holds up the sky and the destruction of it. So we're talking about universal destruction here. Think about the path of the eclipse. This is from a website called Red Ice. They're into the same kind of idea of Germanic paganism and what they think of as the European roots of religion, pagan religion. So anyway, this is their still from a video that they did about the eclipse, and they saw it as symbolic of the dividing of black and white America, which is happening now by force, it seems, with the ginning up of race war, race tensions between blacks and whites. And then just look at this path, okay? Look how the path of the eclipse kind of cuts off Florida from the United States. I mean,
That does it. South America, take it away.
So here we are, sacrificing the Sunshine State to this hurricane that is named after a war goddess who is also connected, obviously, with the concept of the universal pillar, the pillar holding up the sky. And it's connected to the concept of the black sun, and it's connected to the idea of the Nazis and race wars. So it all adds up, doesn't it? It adds up to something. Now, I'm going to elaborate on this. There will be other videos coming today, probably, that pertain exactly to this. Check out my books, Genuflect and Baphomet, the Temple Mystery Unveiled, and Clock Shavings, and Solomon's Treasure, Money Grows on the Tree of Knowledge, Merovingian Mythos, and several others you can find by going to Amazon.com. Thank you. Goodbye.
So yeah, and then there's another clip which I'll also play a little bit later, where she also gets into this idea of the universe being alchemically dissolved and reborn into something else. The new Aeon, the new Aeon of Horus, quote unquote. But anyway, if you look at the meaning of the name Ida, now that also, or Edda, or Ida, means industrious or prosperous, meaning also means to labor or work. And it also says here it connects to the Old Norse goddess Aeon. So let's look at that real quick. Okay, also hopefully it'll load here soon. But yeah, it's interesting that Tracy gets into all this Norse stuff because if you have been reading my work, welcome to the Unveiling. I get into the idea of Ragnarok, which is the Germanic version of the apocalypse or Armageddon, right? So it says in Norse mythology, Aeon is a goddess associated with apples and youth. And that's interesting. Okay, and then she's also described as the wife as the skaldic god Bragi, and in the prose Ida also is a keeper of apples and the grantor of eternal youthfulness. So, I mean, who does that remind us of? Kind of reminds me of Eve, right? She's the one that had held the forbidden fruit and gave it to Adam. And of course, if you do read Kabbalistic literature, you'll know that the forbidden fruit was actually uh, the mating or sexual union between Adam and Eve, as well with the Samael and Lilith, which is basically this combo couple, also known as Behemoth and Leviathan. And I think it's in the Zohar where it says that God took the sword, the flaming sword of Eden, that blocked, the tree of life from being accessed by Adam and Eve, and then he took that and castrated Samael, this Samael dragon worm thing from Lilith, who's also a dragon worm thing, because if he didn't, their continual union would result in the destruction of the universe, which is the same idea that Tracy talks about, right? But anyway, uh, so it says, so yeah, she's like the goddess of youthfulness, right? Now, from what I remember, Metatron is also known as the youth because he's the youngest of all the angels because he was originally a man called Enoch. So I don't even know if that's really connects to anything, but let's see here. It says the prose editor relates how Loki was once forced by the Jotun Jazzy to lure Aeon out of Asgard into a wood with the promise of apples even fairer than her own. So Jazzy, in the form of an eagle, abducts Aeon from the wood, bearing her off into his home. Aeon's absence causes the gods to grow old and gray, and they realize that Loki is responsible for her disappearance. So, under duress, Loki promises to bring her back, and setting out in the form of a falcon, eventually finds her alone in Pizazi's home. He turns her into a nut and flies back toward Asgard. When Pizazi returns to find Aeon gone, he assumes his eagle form once more and flies off into a hot pursuit of Loki and his precious burden. The gods build a pyre in the courtyard of Asgard, and just as Loki has stopped short of it, kindle it, unable to halt his frenzied onrush, Pizazi plunges headlong to the fire, falling into the ground with his feathers aflame, whereupon the gods attack and kill him. Wow. So yeah, she's a fertility goddess. Uh, so I don't know if that really means anything, but just thought I'd mention that. Uh, so yeah, I'll definitely post that in the description box. Let's see if there's anything else that we can find that's noteworthy here. But anyway, so I'm gonna play something else that I posted on my website. Now, this is from an old article that I wrote. It's called Eo Saturnalia Synchronous Returns. But in this article, I talk about, or I make some commentary on this Ipec Goat 2 video that it's been definitely making waves online with various commentary that I've found. But let me go ahead and play a little bit of this clip here, and I think it definitely connects to what is happening on or in current events. So let me play that here. Kind of reminds me of the camps that they're building in Australia, right? Quarantine camps, that is. There's the star with pentagram.
Fool me once, fool me once, fool me once. Shame on, shame on, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again, 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 can't get fooled again.
God, this video gives me anxiety. So there's that Apple thing again. Here's the Ida, right? So let's look at that again. Uh, so it kind of reminds me, yeah, this is Ida, right? She's holding the apple. Wow. Look at Obama, he's sweating. This is the nuclear winter that supposedly happens after when nuclear blast hits. It's very Arctic here, and of course that's another reference to 9/11. Then you have Jesus supposedly on that boat in the underworld. Look, Osama bin Laden. And then you have the oil stuff. Of course, there's a bunch of oil rigs in the Gulf, right? Wow. Amazing. Anyway, I'm not going to play the whole clip, but I mean, just thought I mentioned this stuff, of course, what's happening in Afghanistan, right? Actually, let me go ahead. Let me skip this part here. Where are we? Where was? Okay, I think this is the one I was looking for. Okay. No, actually, let me just play some of the other parts. Actually, let me play this part. Yeah. Look at that. Marcus crashed, and then there's this looks like what's happening now, right? So let's play that again. So the markets crash right before America destroys this mosque here, Islamic mosque, but when that happens, the Islamic mosque launches missiles to this city, right? And of course, that can be symbolic of whether it be New York City or even America. And yeah, I talk about it in this article. So yeah, it says here another CNBC figure called Draco being shown on television, terrorize and siphon energy from a little boy called Ludovic. Now, what's interesting is that Ludovic is, if you reverse that, that translates to COVID, right? With an empty egg-shelled head. Now, the egg-shell boy sees news of a dramatic stock market crash being reflected in his eyes right before a warplane bombing on a mosque. From there, missiles are launched on a city, presumably representing America or Western civilization. We also see Draco siphon off energy from a fetus growing in an egg with its serpentine form attached to a televised all-seeing eye surrounding it, much like the Orphic serpent and the world universal egg. As then it says here, much later in the short film, Draco slithers away from the egghead while the now liberated Ludovic. And now the Heliofont website, the Heliofont is the creator of, or company of that Ipec Goat 2 video. And of course, Ipec Goat 2 is sort of like a play on words of what happened on 9/11, right? And of course, the 20th anniversary of 9/11 is also going to happen fairly soon as well. So it says here, the sorcerer, the unseen hand, the spirit of madness, seeking ever more control through trickery, lies, poisons, the vaccines, false flag events, wars, and mountains of bureaucratic and legal framework to siphon off energy of the inhabitants of the earth. He fears the light of day as he fears life itself and operates in the shadows. His greatest power is his hold on the issuance of the currency. So yeah. And let's see here. Then I wrote here the coiling serpent imagery along with the reptilian clawed hand here in the beginning of the film also reminds me of the recent satanic idol of an outstretched hand erected in democratic Illinois, sponsored by the increasingly influential Temple of Satan, which proliferates the rise of Satanism in popular culture and left-wing ideology. Well, I mean, that's that's totally true. And then, then I connect what we see in that Ipec Go-To video with this Templar-oriented essay called it's called Mysterium Baphometus Revelatum by Joseph von Hammer-Purgstall. And of course, you can look at that on your own, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. But it does remind me of all that stuff that you see in that really crazy essay. So let's see here. Is something worthwhile here? But yeah, then of course there's this guy, and also in the video that you see, Ipec Go-To, he's represents the South America with the rise of communism and socialism in various countries there, especially like in Venezuela, of course. And now let's see. Look at here, Saturn. He's the god of time, and the soul harvest. Saturnus is like a tyrannical father / teacher. He represents authority, discipline, hard work, and labor and commitment. And what we're seeing now is this fulfillment, right? We're basically in both, not only in the age of Saturn, but in the age of Uranus as well. Okay, and then there's another point that I want to get into as well. Let's see. Oh, so yeah, let me play another clip from Tracy that gets into. Well, she actually made a commentary on the subject of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine. So let me pull that up here real quick. I'll play like a little bit of it so you guys can know what I'm talking about. But definitely connects to what I'm working on with.
Hello, everybody.
I'm sorry, with my my essay called Cathar Prophecies, The Age of Wormwood, and Lion Gates, or however I said it before. It's early in the morning, but anyway, I need to drink my coffee. But let's see here. So I'm gonna play a little bit of that now.
Hello, everybody. I've been working on a report about Yellow Submarine for a couple weeks now, and I'm just gonna, in this video, share a few of the things that I noticed about it. Because basically, I'll go ahead and read you the introductory sentence that I have so far. The movie and like-titled attendant record album, known as Yellow Submarine, both tell an allegory of the creation of the universe, the fall of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, the destruction of Atlantis, the flood of Noah, and the recreation of the universe via a time-bending sex magic rite that, allegorically or otherwise, involved all four Beatles being connected sexually as embodiments of the heavenly archons to engender a new Aeon in the form of an anally birthed homosexually conceived homunculus, with the new Aeon being represented, as it so often is, in the form of a new sun, a yellow ship submerged in the celestial sea like the yolk of a cosmic egg. Now, my friends, yes, yes, Virginia, it is all about the anal birth of the homunculus, as I said recently. That's basically, that's what I've wrote Genuflect about. That's what I've been working on for the past couple of years, and that's what seems to be developing in current events. It is the anal birth of the homunculus because it is the birth of the Antichrist and the birth of the New World Order that is happening right now. I assume you saw, if you follow the sorts of things that I follow, you probably saw Kate Middleton wearing the Rosemary's Baby shirt or dress while holding the baby. And of course, her husband is the Antichrist, as we know, according to Clyde Lewis and others. So, and Clinton Ortiz, another writer on the subject.
Well, I mean, there's many antichrists if you read the Bible. And of course, even if you look at the book of Revelation, uh, a lot of historians, of course, connect the Antichrist with Nero. But of course, there are many figures throughout history that also have the spirit of Nero. And of course, the beast of Revelation. And of course, you see that playing out now with all this jab stuff, right? And all these health mandates with that's connected to the Great Reset, or health pass mandates rather. But anyway, I'm gonna play more of this.
So, it's the time for Rosemary's Baby to be born. The rose, though, as you would know if you've read Genuflect and some of the other writings on my website, the rose is the distended and abused anus of the person, the man or boy, really,
Oh, God.
who would be used in such a ritual to give birth to this homunculus. You see,
So yeah, I know that sounds pretty disgusting, and it is disgusting. But this kind of thing is real though, because if you read, uh, let's see, there's a book that I think Nicholas Schreck wrote. It's called Demons of the Flesh. So let me find it. I think I linked it here. Uh, maybe not. I thought I did. But let's see. Let's see if it's on here. But yeah, yeah, so I did link it. Let's pull that article up. Yeah, so it's called Demons of the Flesh, The Complete Guide to Left-Hand Path Magic. And I'll post the article on the description box, but you can read all about Crowley and Jack Parsons and Marjorie Cameron and Frater H. or L. Ron Hubbard and what they did. And I actually posted, let's see, 1 second. Let me pull that other video up. Well, it's on the Welcome to Unveiling Part 4 of these series of articles that I wrote. But you can watch that on your own. I'll play a little bit here later on. But yeah, it gets into the Babylon working, and of course I do talk about the horror Babylon quite a bit throughout the series of articles, and also talk about that in my book, The Sun Lady Unveiled. And in my book, The Sun Lady Unveiled, I get into how the horror Babylon also connects to the demiurge and the womb of the demiurge, actually. but you can also listen to my interview that I did with Miguel Connor on Aeon by Gnostic Radio, and I get into all that. But anyway, I'm gonna play a little bit more of the video of
The
Tracy.
thing is, this is basically all, not like he invented it, but this is what was very well codified by Aleister Crowley and he is known for. And it's hard to tell whether he just stepped into the role or whether he really did create it like he claims, but they are all doing Aleister Crowley style sex magic. They, the elite of today, the types of rituals that they're engineering. I mean, it really is Aleister Crowley's blueprint they're following about how to destroy and regenerate the universe alchemically through sex magic. It has to be homosexual sex magic, and there don't have to be any women involved. In fact, it's better if there aren't. And what you're doing is you're creating a baby that will embody within himself the new universe. Because see, the esoteric belief system we're talking about here involves taking quite literally the idea that we're made in God's image. It's the idea that God really is a man. See, if God is a man, a Superman, the original man, the man of which we are only a derivative version, the perfect man, as the Gnostics refer to God the Son. As I mentioned, Ouroboros is, and he's castrated or penisless. And originally he was just an egg, he was a self-contained whole within himself. But what is the origin really? Because what we're talking about is the process by which that would be regenerated. The way in which the tail is connected through the mouth of the Ouroboros snake. Does the world or universe really have an origin? I mean, we have the idea of a birth and death, but neither ever really happen because the end is swallowed up by the beginning. This very idea is demonstrated in the movie I'm about to talk to you about today, which is Yellow Submarine. It started out, I wanted to just mention the idea that, maybe the Yellow Submarine is the new sun, and what I've talked about before, the idea of, the Aeon that we're in is a sun. The sun dies and is reborn as the universe dies and is reborn. That's the way you remember it, is as being a new sun. You kill the sun and you kill all the other planetary archons, all the other major powers of the universe. Mix them all together into one thing, one new thing that's going to be the new God, the new man, the new God-man that is the new Aeon. And his body and his being is the new universe. And in the process, you've destroyed the old universe. Just as you're about to see the end of the old universe, the new one comes into form. So the end is swallowed by the beginning. You never have to actually taste the end. That's the idea. And there are lots and lots of horror movies and stories about witches and Satanists and people like that who, vampires and people who have, through dark forces in pursuit of dark powers, managed to find a way to regenerate themselves generation after generation. As mankind goes on living and dying through the generations, these adepts know how to jump from one body to another. David Icke, I remember he interviewed someone, he mentioned it in his book, The Biggest Secret, someone who supposedly had been friends with Princess Diana. and was describing the alleged satanic rituals that the royal family was involved in, and where they would shapeshift into reptiles. And she mentioned this, that when they're about to die, they sort of jump out of their host body and jump up the backside, jacksie as she called it, which is a, I guess, British slang term for the backside. Slide up the backside of another. And I think of another host, another human body host. So, not only is the universe a man, but within that man is a worm of some sort, a snake, a serpent, a dragon. That is sort of the animating feature that can jump from one host body to another, acting as the soul, or perhaps a parasite soul alongside others in the host body. But at any rate, we're talking about how the universe itself would regenerate. And that, of course, as the end is swallowed up by the beginning, and of course the universe contains the time within it, So if it's dying and being reborn, then all the time of that universe is bound up with it. So, this process is really kind of a timeless process. It's something that's outside of the realms of time. It's manipulating time itself. So, if the universe was dying and being regenerated, would we know it? Would we recognize the difference between one universe and the next? Presumably, we'd go along with it. As we're in the universe. God is the universe. He's everywhere within the universe that he created, right? We're in him. He's in us. We're all in a yellow submarine. Because even the chaos outside of creation, which is what it's, whatever that is, if it's not even anything really, it's nothing. Sea of nothing, as they call it in the yellow submarine. They call it sea of nothing. Chaos was thought of as a cosmic ocean. It seemed like, you've got this idea of a totally unformed nothingness, sea of nothingness. And then other rings within that, other realms, and they're called Aeons, and each Aeon has a circular realm within it that it rules over. Each Archon is a planet. So we're talking about what we think of as the orbits of the planets, what our ancestors would have thought of as the Aeons, the realms that they're stacked in, and these correspond also to the colors of the rainbow. And the rainbow is, like a half circle, a cross section of the layer cake universe that I'm describing here, where you have realms that are, for all we know, we assume, circular, stacked within each other concentrically. Each is a man. Each is a being and a universe within itself, but collectively they also form something. And this, I'm showing you this still from Yellow Submarine. They have the color, Technicolor rainbow here, and this is during the segment where they are playing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And these freakish-looking people dancing in a line, back to front, As I've suspected and as I've recently confirmed, there's a very specific symbol here because the universe is kind of a daisy chain too. See, and I mean that in the most dirty and sexual sense. We're talking about the archons all being connected sexually, front to back, just like you see here. Again, I suspected it from the symbols that I was seeing in mythology and in the occult. And then I've come across some stuff recently. Here, I'll go ahead and recommend it to you, and I'll bring it up here. It's called... This website is called the Open... it's called the Open Scroll. And I'm sure I've been to it before. I think mostly because I was noticing traffic coming from there to my website. So that's why I think I remember being there before. And so anyway, someone sort of really recommended I go there recently. And I find this is just great stuff about the exact type of Crowleyan homosexual sex magic of alchemy to destroy and regenerate the universe. I don't know if he's talked about that yet. Maybe, probably. But he certainly talks about time travel, which is really part of, part of the same thing. And he's talking about how all these time travel movies, including he goes through Back to the Future and Buckaroo Banzai, and then he goes through the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because, they do the time warp dance there. Imply that there's time travel involved. And so this guy, whose name is Bob something. Bob Schlinker. He goes through and does an expert job of decoding Back to the Future. And, like I say, in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Oh, yeah. Oh, and well, there's just so much good stuff here. So anyway, one of the things he shows repeatedly is that these movies, and another one is a more recent one that's kind of a joke about Back to the Future. Well, heck, I forget what the name of it is, but anyway, sort of a campy movie. But anyway, he shows that they repeatedly have this conga line, right? Which you see in Rocky Horror. Where these guys are
the primary
I'm gonna turn
sponsors.
this sound down. See if I can just find the... Oh, okay, so here they're doing their time warp. Maybe I will turn his sound up because he's...
Well, anyway, I don't want to play that whole thing, but she gets into all these different movies throughout, especially the Rocky Horror Picture Show one and Back to the Future. Let's see, and then she gets into all kinds of stuff, but I think it's definitely pertinent to what's happening now with the with the elite using ritual magic, alchemical magic, to somehow change our reality, right? But I don't know. I don't think I can upload this whole thing. I may probably get in trouble for doing that. But so let's see. But yeah, there's another blog I found that gets also into all this stuff. It's Subliminal synchrosphere.blogspot.com, and he also gets into kind of the same sort of Crowleyan type of Satanism slash occult alchemy that we're seeing unfold even to this day, right? And well, I'm not going to read all this stuff, but you can probably read on your own, and I'll definitely play or post a clip, not the clip, but the link of this website as well on the description box. Oh, so here's an interesting little nugget of information taken from Albert Pike, and it's all about, well, he basically admits that Freemasonry is Luciferian in its orientation. You can read that for yourself. And let's see, okay, and then there's something else I did want to show you in here. Let's see. Well, you can read that. Oh, here's Jeffrey Epstein, right? A Mossad operative. And what's also interesting about Jeffrey Epstein, he, of course, he's connected with different uh, elite types, especially like the Clintons, Bill Gates, who's one of the figureheads of the whole the vaccine reset mandates and all that bullshit. Or BS. Oh, I can't say that word. I think it's make in trouble if I start cursing. uh, and then let's see. Oh, now this is interesting. The world in 2021, and here's a post. Here's the picture from The Economist. That's the magazine cover. Let's see if it'll load here for me, or maybe not. Well, it's taking a little bit of time here to load. Ah, here we go. So, oh man. Okay, so here's I think that's Biden. Here's doing a little bit of a slot machine here. So yeah. So yeah, they're mixing all these different psyopses all into one to a super psyop that we're currently experiencing, right? Um, but yeah, let's see. Oh, and there's one thing I did also want to touch on that I get into my Welcome to Unveiling series, and I did also mention this previously on part one. Where are you? Well, it's about these overlords that we see from yeah, here we go, from this TV show called Childhood's End, right? These are the fallen angels that descend with Satan from Revelation 12 when they were cast out from heaven to the earth. And if you read or listen to some of these Christian watchmen talk about this stuff, the so-called arrival that's going to happen, so that's all interwoven and interconnected, especially with the arrival of the man of sin, right, or Antichrist. Now, uh, the reason why I'm even mentioning this stuff is because if you go to John Keel's website, uh, recently they actually posted a bunch of stuff taken from his series of articles called The Answer. Now, if you don't know who John Keel is, he's the guy that wrote different books like The Mothman Prophecies or the Eighth Tower. I think he wrote another one called Operation. Oh boy, the name escapes me. Let me see. Let's look it up here. Yeah, Operation Trojan Horse. So, and he gets into uh, the ultra terrestrials and such. He writes that the material in this folder is not for publication in any form, but of course, the guy who wrote or published this stuff is a friend of John Keel. But he writes, furthermore, it should not be shown to or read by anyone except for carefully selected few. Anyway, and then he gets into this subject of UFO hostility. So it says here by our criteria, all of the dozen or so UFO groups have hostile intent and are competing to dominate the Earth and enslave all of its peoples. These groups are following a very long-range path or plan and expect to reach their goals within the next 2 generations. Many of these groups possess the power to control our minds at will, and they even have tentacle facilities for occupying our bodies. And it says here, through these powers and devices, they are already infiltrating government and industry on every level, and it is probably impossible for us to combat or defeat them. Then it says here that takeover will be gradual and will be almost imperceptible. So he wrote this in the 60s, by the way. Then he wrote, and it goes, except to those few who understand the techniques being employed, eventually great changes will be brought about in our body chemistry and mental capacities. Well, I mean, you see that with the GMO stuff, with all the vaccines. I mean, I'm not anti-vaccine, but what we're seeing now, I don't think that's really a vaccine. I think it's really more like a biological weapon. But anyway, so it says here we will gradually be transformed in robot-like entities, blindly obeying an unseen control. Our free will and individuality will be suppressed, and when we are at the proper stage of this bizarre evolution, we will be pressed into service in the broader celestial conflict which is now taking place. Many sections of our planet will be physically altered to accommodate the alien forces. And the UFO groups are now in the final stages of establishing extensive bases throughout the world from which they can instrument the last phase of their plans. Full documentation of this situation has been secreted in a safe place, includes the locations of some of the key bases and details of many of the techniques being employed by these groups. And then, well, the guy who, I mean, he posted more uh, of the answer that elaborates on that one premise. I mean, I'm not going to read all of this stuff, but you can read it on your own. But I'll definitely post a link to that. He also gets into the idea of androids and how they connect to the so-called Men in Black, right? Um, and of course, there was a movie called The Men in Black, and its sequels are all about this kind of stuff. It's kind of like a parody of it. But anyway, let's go back to the cover of Operation Trojan Horse. Let's see. Or actually, you know what? It's not even on this link. Let me find the other one. It's actually on. Go to Goodreads. It will have it. What I was looking at kind of blew me away. The cover of it, that is. Let's see. Goodreads. I think it was on here. It's been a while. But I was looking at it. It was within it. It was talking about how maybe that's not it. Well, maybe I'll find it another time. But I know it was saying that. Let's close that out here. But the reason why there hasn't really been, a serious disclosure is that the people in charge. I mean, they're much in the dark as all of us anyway. But yeah, and then I did also want to talk about this article that Tracy wrote. Of course, that's been taken down from the website, and of course, well, I mean, the entire website's been taken down, as well as all of our other stuff by uh, someone that will be nameless. Um, but yeah, but she gets into uh, Nibiru and Heaven's Gate, and I'm definitely going to touch on this in a future video about wormwood. And well, I mean, oh, it definitely connects to what we're seeing or what's going to happen soon. I mean, of course, Nibiru has been debunked as not, as being fake news by NASA. But anyway, and then there's another article that I found online, which I also quote from the Welcome to the Unveiling uh, articles that talks about this story, and well, it's called "Prisoners of Earth Come Out," right? And it talks about the this rupture that happens within the divine realm of the pleroma in Gnostic mythology, but also connects to uh, Revelation 12, of course. So I'll read a little bit from it. So it says here, in the ageless past, there was a cosmic catastrophe, the real nature of which cannot be explained in our limited human language or fully comprehend by the human mind. This cataclysm, known only as the attack of the darkness on the realm of light, precipitated a phenomenal chain of events. In response, the God of light and truth set in motion a corrective process capable of completely defeating the darkness. A faint memory of one of these events is described in the Bible as the war in heaven, Revelation 12:7-9. We are told of a great war that was fought in space and how Michael, the commander of the divine extraterrestrials, defeated a rebellious entity symbolizes the dragon along with his rebel extraterrestrial army. After his defeat in the intergalactic war, this Dark Lord retreated to what became his main stronghold, the planet Earth, and the solar system. Uh, but yeah, and then it gets into, you know, the nature of this Dark Lord. Of course, that's Satan, the demiurge, whatever you want to call it. Um, so, and then it gets into uh, kind of like a Cathar myth of how humanity were actually thought of by the Cathars, which were a medieval sect of Gnostic Christians. They thought that humanity was really a race of fallen angels trapped in flesh. Uh, so yeah, and then so it says here some of the pilgrims engaged in sexual intercourse with earth women. Um, Frequencies were changed, they became trapped in Earth, unable to ascend the vibrational scale and re-enter the etheric world. Spiritual beings found themselves in dense bodies, bound in this miserable planet, controlled by the adversary. The Dark Lord's rebel bands became their prison warders. So yeah, but you can read that on your own, of course. Uh, and that also connects to what I spoke about in my article, right? uh, Now, I also want to mention this real quick uh, article that I found. It's called "The Serpent Hatches." And it's by this guy, Michael Luton. He's like basically an astrologer, but he makes a really interesting uh, prediction of what's going to happen fairly soon here in the rest of 2021. So I'll read a little bit from here. So it says, when the planet Saturn reaches its point of changing direction from retrograde during the first week of October, your own life will reawaken, and the machinery of your destiny will go into high gear. Things you have been planning or attempting to do, ground that lay fallow and resisted planting, go into forward motion at last. Things that were supposed to happen didn't, and 101 delays, obstacles, and stones in the middle of the road will all roll out of the way. This is not a regular station of Saturn changing direction, mainly because that happens every year. This one is different. This one is way different. This one is not only on seeking delays, it is connecting your destiny with the fate of the world. It is linking your personal destiny with that of the collective in politics, economics, and every other aspect of your life. You will now say why and how our future is directly and unequivocally tied to a set of circumstances that at one time might have seemed remote. Today, however, you become intimately involved. You cannot deny the impact on you with that which you have now become consciously involved with. If you had any doubts before, you realize now why no one is an island. We are all connected. This is how you're linked with the rest of the world, or this is your link with the rest of the world. But yeah, he gets to all this uh, really interesting predictions. How basically the uh, the true meaning of Revelation or the apocalypse will basically happen in the later part of this year. It says here, true identities will be revealed, the mask will be removed, people you thought were the people you thought they were will turn out not to be at all who you thought they were. We can't even try to guess what this means and the profanity of what it will entail. Technology has been developed way further than we have imagined or have been told. What the awakening will mean, we can but imagine, but it will be the greatest task of human consciousness that we have had to face. Revelation will be liberation on a scale unimagined. It is the beginning of what the supposed conspiracy theorists were calling disclosure. On all levels, your personal and private life will now interact or intersect with the political and collective history and the future of the world. Right at this point, little everybody else, I can only guess. I will fill in the blanks when I find them. But he also says here, we are now fully engaged in a global and galactic war. This is a racial war of what we perceive as good and evil, and good against evil. But I believe it will be fought. It will be a fight over the supremacy of bloodlines. There are more secrets to be revealed now in blood types and bloodlines than we can possibly figure out. The struggle for dominance will reflect the research and development into DNA that has been going on for years, both human and non human. That research will now reach deep into the past and into the human consciousness. So he says deep 3 times here, right? The results of that research will fuel this war of racial supremacy, or should I say genetic supremacy. So it says here, in order for us to grasp the scope of this, it is possible that all political, religious, philosophical, and ethical considerations have to crumble right before our eyes, and every conscious being will be changed with the unconscious urge to survive. It's not merely a religious or racial intelligence or the intolerance. Can talk. The intolerance of skin color or blood type or language. What is being revealed is the fact that all differences are superficial. Deep down in the core of what we call life is a shared truth, a common genetic origin that and bond that will fuel up, even obliterate the fight for genetic primacy over one another. And then it says here, dominance and submission, the eternal struggle, strength over weakness, survival. Once again, we face a primal struggle. It's time we understand and realize that we are all related. There are no differences. We are still struggling for dominance over each other, even though we are all linked by genetics. Every last one of us, with the microscopic creature to huge lumbering monsters, the revelations are about to be made. We are about to get educated and shown that we are all related, but not in the way we have ever thought. This is the end of Capricorn. This is the finality of our education as sentient beings. The serpent hatches at last. We all share a genetic bond that allows us to exist in the same world. We all come from somewhere and we are charged with living. This is the reality of this war. Well, that's interesting because let's look at what we just saw earlier with this Ipec go-to video, right? So look what happens with Ludovic, right? Let's skip here. So that serpent thing slithers away, and then he liberates himself, right? Or COVID leaves somehow. I don't know. Or the COVID psyop, rather. Look, the Antichrist opens his eyes and sees the new Aeon, right? He faces the new sun, the newborn sun. The old reality is crumbling behind him, symbolized by the icy church, right? The Christian church. So that falls. Into nothing. This is the new reality. The new reality takes over the old reality. The newborn sun. So whether we face that newborn sun as co-creators or not, I don't know. But I do think the revelation is upon us now. But anyway, I hope you thought this video was interesting and informative. That I tried to make this video as. Let's see. Something else that I want to mention real quick. Oh, and there's one more thing I did forget to mention earlier. So it connects to what Tracy talked about in that Yellow Submarine video that I played. But I talked about this Antichrist figure and how he connects to the tribe of Dan. And I quote an article from C.E. Hill, and he basically explains that this Antichrist is essentially the Jewish Messiah, which is kind of interesting because it also connects to Marcion. And if you don't know who Marcion is, he was a Christian heretic from the early 2nd century, I think. And of course, the church fathers railed against him quite a bit, probably more than any other figure or Gnostic in early Christian history, really, because he separated the old leaven from the new leaven. In other words, he thought that the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, was somehow different or separate from the God of the New Testament, right? uh, because Jesus and Paul, I mean, they have different ideas of how God is or what God is and how he operates than the tribal God of the Jews of the Old Testament. But I mean, of course, if you read more closely, I mean, in the New Testament, I mean, there's a lot of different allusions of Jesus being Yahweh. Actually, I mean, there's definitely a connection there, and I talk about that quite a bit, and I wrestle with the idea of Yahweh, Yahweh Sabaoth, and how he connects with in the New Testament. And I also wrestle with the idea of him being the demiurge as well. So you could definitely check that out on your own. But but the reason why I even mention all this, well, I mean, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he also, well, I did connect to the figure of Simon Magus, and he's also considered the father of heresy, right? Gnostic heresy, that is. He's like the proto black magician and Antichrist as well. But it turns out that Simon Magus also, interestingly enough, also connects to the tribe of Dan. And then I say here, well, here, I'll just read a little bit from Wikipedia. So it says here, Simon Magus, also known as Simon the Sorcerer and Simon the Magician, came from the village of Gita in Samaria, according to Justin Martyr, a site settled by the tribe of Dan, according to Josephus. Justin, who was himself a 2nd century native of Samaria, wrote that nearly all the Samaritans in his time were adherents of Simon, surviving Orthodox texts, such as those of Irenaeus, Justin Martyr, Hippolytus, and Epiphanius, regarded Simon as a source of all heresies, including Gnosticism. It says here, Ethiopian Jews, also known as Beta Israel, claim descent from the tribe of Dan, whose members migrated south along the members of the tribes of Gad, Asher, and Naphtali into the kingdom of Cush, now Ethiopia and Sudan, during the destruction of the first temple. This position is supported by the former Sephardic chief rabbi Ovadia Yosef. They are said to have fought with the natives. Charles Upton relates the serpent voodoo god Dan Bala as derived in part of the heterodox form of Ethiopian Judaism. Wow, I never heard of that, but interesting. And of course, this is the figure of Don or Dan, right? And he looks kind of like a jester that I mentioned. He also has the brown serpent pole, right, or the Nehushtan pole. You know, serpent that was raised by Moses when the Israelites were afflicted by serpent demons, basically. If you remember from Numbers. So, and then I wrote here, so could this earthly Messiah be the same as the demon that Theosophists like Benjamin Cream claimed to be the long-awaited avatar or ascended master of their Aquarian age, Maitreya or Sanat Kumara of the Great White Brotherhood? Interestingly, Alan Greenfield in his book, The Secret Rituals of the Men in Black, claims that Philip K. Dick eventually became an avid follower of Benjamin Cream. According to Wikipedia, Sanat Kumara hails from the much more spiritually evolved etheric plane of planet Venus, but now dwells in Shambhala, an etherical floating city above the Gobi Desert, also equated with the city of Enoch. Now, what's interesting is that, if you remember, there was a secret society or Nazi secret society called uh, the Order of Vril, or the Vril Society, right? And there were basically black magicians and Satanists who were trying to harness the power of Vril with their mostly female initiates, actually, and they were really into Saturn and or the Black Star, or uh, the Black Sun, really. And I'll get into that in another video, especially in the Cathar prophecies, Lion Gates, and Wormwood one that I have planned, which I'm not sure when I'll get to that, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll publish that article within the next few days here. But it says here, then I wrote, this Venusian colonization was assisted by the Lords of Flame, along with his consort Lady Venus, who is, Ishtar, Ashtar, or Ashtaroth. The same Wikipedia entry tells us that Sanat Kumara will eventually possess an unaging body of a 16-year-old boy, not born of a human mother, reminding me of Tracy Twyman's investigations of the anal homunculus as an alchemical avatar of the Thelemic Antichrist. In one revealing article about the seven rays, it goes into Sanat Kumara and the seven-rayed deity. One part is worth quoting about the demiurge and the second beast of Revelation. And then it says here, the Socratic interpretations and the seven rays, and then the Egyptologist Gerald Massey wrote in 1881 of what he described as connections between Vedic scripture, ancient Egyptian mythology, and gospel stories. He theorized that Eo, the seven-rayed sun god of Gnostic stones, or of the Gnostic stones, was also the serpent Chenubis and the second beast of in the book of Revelation. And so in 1990, or sorry, not 1990, 1900, he elaborated further, describing the unity of the seven souls of the pharaoh, the seven arms of the Hindu god Agni, the seven stars in the hand of Christ in Revelation, and the seven rays of the Chaldean Hepticus or Eo on the Gnostic stones. And now, if you don't know what I'm talking about or what he's talking about, that's the serpent with the lion's head that you see. He's just symbolic of the demiurge. You see that on different stones, as well as from the ancient past, and as well as on Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck. Well, I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but anyway, you get the idea. And then now here's what uh, Joel Massey wrote about all this stuff as well. And well, I'll let you read that. Uh, then I also note how this Sanat Kumara figure, the Regent of the Lord, is is also, of course, a title of both the Demiurge and the Cosmocrator, i.e., Satan or the Antichrist. Now, Sanat is also called the chief avatar in the theosophist idea of the solar logos, which sounds exactly what Joshua Jacob Seraphim is describing in his article, as we saw earlier. Now, that article, let's see here. Well, I'll read a little bit from that in a bit. So it says here, Alice Bailey calls Sanat Kumara as a one initiator, according to her book, The Externalization of the Hierarchy. And then it says here, the distinction between the demiurge and the cosmic creator is made in my book, The Sin Lady Unveiled. But essentially, church fathers like Irenaeus claimed that the cosmic creator was the creature of the demiurge. And of course, the demiurge is the creator of the physical world. And of course, he is seen as, or he's typically thought of as Yaldabaoth in Gnostic mythology. Uh, well, he's like basically the devil, essentially. He's like the shadow of Yahweh, in other words. So he's kind of like Yahweh and the devil combined. But it says here, incidentally, Irenaeus and Against Heresies would also claim that the Antichrist would descend from the tribe of Dan, as well, pointing Jeremiah 8:16 as proof. So then I get into this really crazy stuff from Jose Hiru Aragon. He wrote this book called Primordial Gnosis, the Forbidden Religion. But here's what he says about the Great White Brotherhood. So he says, in the last 150 years, these members of the White Lodge have started to be described each time with more clarity. Their names, appearances, and characteristics can be found in books by Helena Blavatsky and in books by those who followed her, Alice Bailey being the one who stands out. We have spoken about one of the members of the White Lodge, Satan Kumara. What a name! It was just too much and had to be disguised later on, changing it to Sanat Kumara. Each one of them, like the demiurge, has many names, like many disguises to better deceive. Some of them have the real names of demons, like Maitreya, who is said to be the real Christ, or the Masters Moria and Dwal Kul. Others have notable titles such as Prince Rakatsi, a true Prince of Darkness. There are many more, all similar. All these demons, empty eggshells of the demiurge, will be disintegrated in the Pralia along with everything created. Kind of sounds like the shells of of the tree of death, or the Cliffhoff of the Kabbalah. Sort of like the inverse Kabbalistic tree that you see. That's basically hell. But then he gets into, I get into the John D stuff about destroying and recreating the universe, kind of like how we saw earlier with Tracy's video. And then, and here's an interesting quote I found from this article called "The Occult Hierarchy's Plan." Lays out the the externalization of the hierarchy is their alchemical salve et coagula, which is taken from the Lords of Chaos. So it says here, the true meanings are this: the great work is the spiritualistic illumination of a minority of the world's people operating in conjunction with the plan for world domination by these illumined people and their secret masters, often referred to as the hierarchy. Ascended masters, unknown nine avatars, and the Great White Brotherhood, the secret chiefs, and other such euphemisms. In short, what their plan, the great work, the ancient hope alluded to, is the dark empire of secret societies' ancient agenda for the new civilization in Aquarius. The Age of Aquarius, the global empire for global governance. Also what we call, or what the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab calls the Great Reset. You must eat the bugs. You will take the job. You will submit and obey. Anyway, a world empire ruled by the externalized hierarchy recently emerged from the dark empire of secret societies, shadows that will take outer and recognizable physical control of world affairs and will rule the world with love and compassion, with quotation marks. A future necessitating the eradication of the majority of humans, the 90%, those who are not illumined enough, who refuse to be illumined, those who cannot be illumined, and those who it would be compassionate and loving to liquidate, thereby releasing them from their suffering. Free them from a life not worth living. This is why the calling of the human population to sustainable levels is integral to the New Age movement and to the environmental movement which is underway under its sway. Now, Foster Bailey, Alice's spouse, hinted at this in his book, Things to Come. The new civilization in Aquarius will inevitably develop a quality appropriate to what we consider most valuable. Our children and men will have to live with the new age standards. Those who do not will end up as irreconcilable outcasts. Kind of reminds me of the book Brave New World, right? It says here, Foster's irreconcilable outcasts are Barbara Mark's husband, destructive 1/4 that must be eliminated from the social body. They are not members of the 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. That's from the Georgia Guidestones. They are the 90% of the world's population destined for destruction. Kind of reminds me of the unvaccinated swine, right? And then the plan and the great work are two manifestations of the conspiracy to inaugurate the world empire under overt esoteric rulership, which is the ancient dream of the dark empire of secret societies through the ages. And the great work, in a theatrical sense, is really aimed towards the adept, as Carl Stone tells us in The Moonchild of Viasad. To the eyes of the uninitiated, the magical will seems hidden and immersed within a labyrinth veiled in darkness. The unveiling process is synonymous with the work of the alchemists transforming the vitriol into the philosopher's stone. This is similar to gaining penetrative insight or prana into the nature of the dependent origination and understanding of the emptiness, whereby the three klasas, greed, hatred, and ignorance of Buddhism, which fetter and hold back enlightenment within the aspiring chela, are overcome. Thus, concealed within this realm of illusion of or glamour lies the great formula of the great work. So, I'm not saying that this is bad. I mean, we all should be initiates of the great work, but I mean that's within us, not uh, dictated by some antichrist beast government. You know, through endless injections, endless jabs, and I mean it's just totally incredible what's happening. You know, it's the fall of Babylon, as Revelation 17:18 talk about. We're currently, and that's currently underway. We're at the height of that. And then Titus Groan, he's the same guy that wrote that, but he wrote the New World Order's demonization of mankind, and he says where he, of course, he nails down where this ultimate conspiracy comes from. So he writes, there has been a conspiracy to subvert creation since the time Lucifer raised his hand to strike the Father who created him. A conspiracy that came to earth when Archangel Michael vanquished Lucifer and his followers from heaven. A conspiracy Yahweh, the Old Testament God, and his prophets told us repeatedly about. And that's true. You see that quite a bit. And I actually made quote articles, or sorry, quotes from the Old Testament in another part of my the series of the Welcome to the Unveiling. So it says here, a conspiracy those behind it are involved in and who seek to greatly benefit from it wish to be concealed. Well, it says here to understand this means to accept history's true nature. History does not exist in another kingdom other than the human. Well, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you kind of get the idea where I'm going with this. And I also talk about, the movie Dark City, and that's all about how these group of parasitic demonic intelligences inhabiting dead human cloned bodies basically control the rest of the human populace that are under sort of like an amnesic spell in some sort of flat sort of city world. And sounds kind of crazy, but I mean, you'll have to watch that movie just to understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, and then well, I'll let you read for yourself about where I'm going with all this stuff. Uh, so yeah, so I wrote here, according to the satanic article Ordo Antichristus Illuminati Number of the Beast by Joshua Jacob Seraphim, he tells us more about the magical and solar nature of the number of the beast, which I also decoded in my book, The Suddenly Unveiled, as Saturn, the hypercosmic demiurge. So, and then, yeah, so let me look at my book real quick here. Pull that up. Now, keep in mind, I wrote this a few years ago, even before the whole COVID stuff began to emerge. So, I wrote here in Apollyon Rising. So, Apollo, the god Apollo, connects to this angel of destruction that we see in Revelation 9, right? And then let's see, where's this part? So this one part that I want to point out real quick. So here that the god Apollo is inverted or transformed into an angel of the bottomless pit. Though Apollo was known as a god of prophecy, law, and purification, in his earliest accounts, he could place plagues on mankind as well as cure them. This occurs in Homer's Iliad when Apollo creates a 9-day plague on the Achaean army and their cattle. So the description given to Apollyon's army of locust demons sounds early like that of the predatory creature of Persia, the manticore or man-eater. And so that's like a monster that has like a lion's face with a lion's, oh sorry, a man's face with a lion's body with wings. bat wings and a scorpion tail. So yeah. Now, and also, I mentioned this really interesting quote from the church father Irenaeus, and I think he was a student of Polycarp, who was a student of John the Apostle, who was, of course, the apostle of Jesus Christ. And he mentions the Antichrist quite a bit in the book Against Heresies, and in that book he talks about all these different Gnostic cults from that time period, and of course he refutes them to the best of his ability. But anyway, he does connect the Titan, the word Titan, with in Greek, which calculates to 666 in the Antichrist. So, and then he says here, we infer that perchance he who is to come shall be called Titan. We will not, however, incur the risk of pronouncing positively as to the name of Antichrist, for if it were necessary that his name should be distinctly revealed at this present time, it would have been announced by him who beheld the apocalyptic vision, for that was seen no very long since, but almost in our day, towards the end of Domitian's reign. So, in other words, if John the Revelator were to reveal the true name of the Antichrist, then the jig is up, right? Uh, but I mean, the word Titan though does definitely have a strong connection to all this, and then I also get into let me see. Now, Titan is of course a is the gods, so-called gods, that were overthrown by Zeus and the Olympian gods. They're like the former gods that were originally consigned to Tartaros, right? And then I get into like King Solomon and how he connects to with the Antichrist as well in this book. But I mean, I'll definitely let you look into that. But anyway, I just thought I mentioned all this stuff. Now, there's one clip I did want to play here real quick. That connects to what I mentioned earlier about Metatron. This was a clip taken from Mirashima 2012, but this is a clip from the movie Dogma, so I'll just play it here. That connects to what's happening now.
Oh, hard to be. Was Wisconsin really that bad?
Thank you, terror. Thank you, disillusionment. Thank you, frailty. Thank you, consequence. Thank you, silence. Thank you, silence.
Yeah, so be prepared, guys. Who knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks and months. But anyway, I hope you guys stay safe and get your house in order, and God bless. See ya.